Hey fellow flowers, Violet here and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are going to be diving into how to make the pineapple stitch. Now before we dive into it, I wanted to get into a little bit of an explanation behind what's actually going on with the pineapple stitch. So I have here a corkscrew stitch and I want to hopefully demonstrate a little bit of what's happening with this stitch and why it looks the way that it does. So you'll notice with the corkscrew stitch, I have one primary string here, which is this brown strand. And when I make the corkscrew stitch, I'm doing a twisty technique, which means that I don't bring it to this brown space here. Instead, I bring it diagonally to this bottom left space over here in between the black strand and this other brown. And this brown string isn't going to cross over here. It's going to go up to the top right, like so. So I'll have my two loops going diagonally across the face of the lanyard, and you'll see that this is what gives it kind of its twisty corkscrew effect, and then you weave your side strings per the usual. And this combination of having one primary string and a twisty stitch gives you this corkscrew effect. Now, the difference is with the pineapple stitch, instead of having one primary string, you have two, in which case every stitch you are turning your lanyard and you're using this middle strand here as your primary strand. Now what remains is that this is still a twisty stitch, so when we fold these strings, they come down and to the left, and this one goes up and to the right, and then you can weave your side strings like usual, and that's what's going to give you the pineapple effect. So now that you have a little bit of an idea of what's happening with this stitch, let's get into the materials that you'll need. For this pineapple stitch, I have 3 pieces of Gimp, which are the same color, and then I have 1 accent color. And you'll notice that I have 2 longer strands, and then I have 2 shorter strands. So the 2 longer strands are going to be my alternating primary strands, and then the 2 shorter ones are kind of those side pieces. And I want the brown to be my accent color. So to start this thing, I'm going to select the body colors, so 2 of the yellow, 1 long yellow and 1 short yellow. So I'll grab these 2 pieces here, and I'm going to start a box stitch at first. So if you're not familiar with how to do that, I recommend watching that video first, but I will show you how to do that using the finger method here. So I'll start with this strand, one of these strands. It doesn't really matter which one just yet, but I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to find the midpoint of the string. So this is the middle of that string, and from here I'm going to make note of where the middle is and wrap that center point around my finger like so. So you'll see that I have kind of a tail end sticking out over here in front of my finger, and then another tail end sticking out behind my finger. And with that, I have 2 loops now, and I'll find that other strand. So same color strand here, and this one is going to go underneath the 2 loops. So I'll feed this underneath both loops, and then I want to even this one out as well and find its midpoint. So I'll find the other end of the string, fold it in half, and then pull it until it's tight, and that's how I know that this is my middle. And from here, I need to weave this new strand over and under the loops, but I need to go over this loose strand and underneath the loop. So I need to cross over like this, but I need to tuck it under. So I'm going to find the end of this string here on the left, and I will go over this first strand and underneath this loop over here, and then pull this through. And if it gets all wonky on you, just straighten up the string, and we'll kind of redirect it to this bottom right. Then for the other side of that strand, which is right here, my loose end was back here, remember? So I need to cross over that one and then go under the loop, which is on the other side. So over this first strand here, over this one, and under this one. So go over and under that and pull it through. And again, if it gets wonky, you can just straighten it out. Like so. So now I have a boxed stitch, essentially. And what gives this pineapple the pineapple stitch kind of its effect is that you have a different color next to these. So we have to insert a string. So before I tighten this up, I'm going to kind of open up that stitch. So keep everything on your finger. We're not going to tighten it just yet. And we'll grab that color, that other color that we have, that other shorter strand, which is a different color. And we're going to cross it under those 2 loops as well, but we need to go in between the 2 side strands that I've already inserted. So I need to open this up. I'll take my brown string and I'll feed it underneath these 2 loops, like so. And then I need to do the same kind of maneuver where I find the other end of this brown string right here, and then we're going to hold the 2 ends together and we will just pull it so we find the middle of the string. And once we found it, we're in pretty good shape. And we need to pay close attention to which way that the strands are passing. So you'll see this yellow strand is up here passing towards the left, which means that I can't put this brown string next to it because then I'm going to have 2 strings passing to the left. And if I do that, the whole thing's going to fall apart and look kind of silly. So that means that the next string that needs to be woven is this brown string over here on the left. So we're going to pass over the first yellow loop and underneath the one that's far away. And then I will find this brown string here. Now we're ready to weave this one. And we need to go over the first yellow loop and underneath the second. And we just need to make sure that we don't accidentally pass underneath one of the side loops that we have already. So just go straight across, over and under, straight across. And from here, we have one more string that we need to insert. So I'm going to need to open up that brown, just like we did with the yellow before. You'll see that now I have 2 horizontal strands and my 1 primary string here. And I need to insert this last yellow in between the brown. And this is my longer yellow. So this should be your other primary strand. And I'm feeding it underneath the 2 loops, just as I did before. And if the strands are being stubborn, just be patient with them. You'll feed this new strand underneath the 2 yellow loops that you have already and in between those brown strings. And just like before, find the other end of this new string, put the 2 ends together, and we will pull until we find the middle of this strand. So now we are ready to weave our strings over and under the main string. And you'll notice again, the brown next to it is going to the right. So this yellow needs to pass to the left now. So over and under, over this first yellow loop underneath this one here. And again, just be careful not to accidentally pass underneath one of the loops on the side. Let me straighten this out here, like so. And then I will gather the other end of this yellow string. And this one is going to pass the opposite direction. So if you need to move the strings out of the way a little bit to give yourself some room, it needs to go right in here. And we'll straighten this out so there are no kinks in the string. And from here, we will pull it all tightly. So we can pull our finger out from behind the strands now. And carefully use your pointer finger and your thumb to hold this primary string here. Pull that tightly and then pull the side strings tightly together so that it all kind of stays even. So take a look at your lanyard and make sure that it looks somewhat like this. Of course, if you chose other colors, that's totally fine too. But from here, we're ready to actually weave the stitch. So first step is to actually turn the lanyard. And then from here, recall that we are redirecting our primary string. I have 3 strands and I'm going to choose the middlemost string. And instead of going straight down, we're going to go diagonally in between the bottom 2 left. So down and right here. And you can use your fingers to kind of hold it in place. And then with the middle strand on bottom, that one is going to come up and in between the other 2 yellow strands, like so. And then from here, we are going to just weave our side strings. So our side strings are now these 3 on both sides. So I'll start with this yellow strand on the right, and I'll cross over this first loop and underneath the second one. And we'll pull this through. And then I will move on to my brown strand. So I kind of need to move this yellow one out of the way. And this one will go over that and under this one. Then I'll gather the next one, over and under. And remember, these strands used to be our primary string, but we turned our lanyard. So now they are just like side strings to us. And then this last row, over and under, and kind of move them out of the way if they're being stubborn again. And we'll find this last yellow strand here. Move this brown guy out of the way. Excuse me, sir. And then right under here, over and under. And I can pull this tightly together. And then the next step is to turn your lanyard again and to do the same thing. So turn it, gather the middle string, bring it diagonally down in between the other 2 yellows. Then for the yellow strand that was on bottom, this middle one, this one comes up in between the top 2 yellows. And then you weave your side strings. Now that's really all there is to it. You'll turn your lanyard every time, then form your 2 loops with the middle string, and then weave the new side strings over and under. And after a while, you should have something that looks like this. If you were doing the twisty stitch correctly, then you should have something that looks like this on the left. If you were on accident doing something straight, you'd get like a straight pineapple effect, which is right here on the right. And it's still cool, but just so you can see straight versus twisty pineapple. So here we are next going to finish the lanyard. If you want, you could literally just tie a knot and call it a day. You would just form a little loop, tuck it under the loop, and pull it together like so. However, if you want to jazz it up and try out this macrame finishing knot, I'm going to show you how to do that. So first, we're going to lay all the strings down together, then cut an extra piece of gimp. This can be anywhere from, like 6 to 10 inches, depending on how comfortable you are, how much slack you need. So here is about like a 8-inch portion of string. And from here, I'm going to kind of hold all my string ends in the same direction. Then with this new string, I'm going to form a little loop like so. And I'm going to take this loop and lay it on top of all my strings. And then hold them all. So you'll see I have a little bit of slack on top, and then I have a loop on bottom. And then I have this longer piece. And from here, I'm going to wrap it around all of my strands, and we'll go around a couple of times and try to pull this string tightly around. Every time that you go around, try to pull it tightly, push it up against the body of the keychain. And once you've gone around a couple of times, you can straighten up the go rounds if you'd like. And then from here, you'll take the longer end here, which is your last piece of slack. So let me just straighten these up. You'll see I have my loops that kind of wrap around the base of that keychain a couple times. And I'll take this long piece of slack and I'm going to find my loop, which is right here. And I'm going to insert it through the loop. So right through here. And then this little tab, we'll just pull on this. And it'll tighten up the loop around our long end. And then we can gather our scissors and trim off all of the excess. And there you have it. That is how you make the pineapple stitch. I hope you enjoyed this how-to video. I will see you guys in the next one. Till then, keep blooming.